Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Now if you have a product page and you're struggling to convert through that product page, there are pre-sale pages that you can run and test and try out so that your product page will convert better. So the idea here is that you will have a customer come to the product page with a bit more of an understanding about the product. So there's more context that they would then come to the product page with. And there's 4 main types of funnels for pre-sale that we've identified. I'll go through them briefly here. So the first one, and this is the one that we'll mainly go over on this video, is explanation funnels. So this is one where you have a little bit more of a complicated product, and you are simply using this page to explain it. Second is a quiz. So this is useful where you have multiple products and you are looking to have people select between those products. So the whole idea of the quiz is to help people find what's relevant for them. Next we have content. So on the content funnel you have quite a bit of liberalities you can take and use that how you see best, but typically it is more of an article format. And there you have, sometimes you have a story, sometimes you have a little bit something else. But we'll cover some examples in the future video. And lastly, you have the discount funnel. So the idea here is to make it a little bit special, that this discount is given to this person, and make it a little bit more urgent that, okay, this is why the discount exists, etc. So it will be more valued than if it was just on a store-wide thing. So that's the 4 types of funnels and a brief overview of it. You've also perhaps heard me talk about advertorials before as well. So I'll explain the difference, and in the end I'll also show you an advertorial combined with a explanation page. So that's like the combination. So that's that. I'll go over some practical examples in this video. But before I do that, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'm your host, Samuel Larsen, founder of CROgurus.com, where we help multiple 7- and 8-figure stores get the most out of their existing traffic with pre-sale funnels, as well as conversion rate, average order value optimization, and understanding their lifetime values and how to optimize those as well. All right, with that said, let's jump into the screen share. All right, here we are with the screen share. I've picked a few landing pages here for this sort of explanation approach. One thing that you can often see is the brands that have a landing page builder will have it on some kind of subdomain here. So that's the way to identify here. So lp.try. You have then like sometimes this /l or /landing, those kinds of things. Those can help you understand which is a landing page and which isn't. And then you can also check whether it's actually a Shopify store. So this is probably built in some other platform because of that. So it's not a native Shopify page. Okay, with that said, let's look into this. So you have to understand that most of these people, they are arriving from somewhere. Now in this kind of case, they would be mostly arriving from ads because these pages don't really rank for SEO. So something to keep in mind. And when it comes to ads, you typically have people that are fairly new to the brand. So leading with this kind of why section is a key in these kinds of pages. Now, since this is a collection of apparel and accessories, it's not like the product needs a lot of explanation. It's more about why us in this kind of case. And that's what they are focusing on here. I think in general they don't do a great job here, simply because these are still very generic things. Design, quality, sustainability. It's not enough to differentiate this from others, and it's not going to be something that would be a showstopper for someone browsing online, simply because it's not novel. It doesn't really attract the brain to stop. Like it's just like seen this 1,000,000 times before type of thing. So there they lead with their products and some social proof. and then they go to the material. I think this page kind of jumps the gun with these products. They wanted to get them early there, and that's very common, where they might be measuring bounce rates and click-through rates instead of the end conversion rates. The end conversion rates are typically not that easy to measure when it comes to using landing pages with your store, because it's a different platform and it doesn't quite one-to-one always go with Google Analytics. So there's often just a little bit too much focus on the click-through rates and the avoidance of bounces. And here they actually go between this. So this could be something to use, and this is definitely as well something that could separate them from it. But in the before, like this one, very, very bland, right? So that's an important thing, where the explanation actually, in a way, it is starting from high level and going deeper. So that principle is correct. But if the deeper part doesn't get read, then it doesn't matter. And then you have a little bit of a product lifecycle explanation. And you'd need to look into this from a very skeptical perspective. For example, here, from designing thoughtfully to inspiring your weaver. We support you in wearing your pieces as long as possible to reduce our impact of the environment. You know, like, that's not very practical either. It's just sounds very fluffy. So that's the first explanation funnel on it. And next, we have a little bit of a different type of product. So I wanted to pick all kinds of products and approaches here, so that we get a good 360 about this. Next, we are doing blue light glasses. And here, often you have the marketing department come up with some kind of fancy title here. Probably most customers don't really understand how blue light glasses work hard, or at least like as hard as they consider themselves to be working. So those kinds of things might be missed. But they decided to start with a little bit of a different approach in amplifying the pain. And of course, it's okay to be hit and miss here, because you have people, if they don't have the eye strain, they probably don't really care about this. But those buyers would never actually be buyers. They would be just browsers. So this makes a lot of sense. And I think this is a good approach in general. So first, they started with differentiating them from others, if you remember here. So no dyes, no cheap coatings. And it's like, okay, like, what's different? And then they went into this. It's not technically like very good in terms of jumping in between, but it's a very short section, so I think in that kind of case it is quite okay. It's not going to hurt them much. And now we go to the solution. I think this is pretty nicely done. Maybe I wouldn't go so salesy here in terms of we design a solution, one that really works. Because again, like, people would probably be very skeptical. And typically this kind of V approach is not really that good copywriting wise. It's just people don't care about you as a merchant, they just care about themselves. And that's also one thing where this one, for example, could be framed in their benefit. And I'll show you a very good funnel later on the video about how this actually impacts a customer. So you'll be able to see how that differs from this kind of very self-centered approach of basically Felix Gray is great, you should understand it, and it's just this kind of sales from it. And yeah, it just goes more hype and hype and hype. So that's that funnel. This then goes to the most popular styles, so you can actually find one there. One thing I'd probably add here is like, didn't find yours. and then you could have a little bit of a different one, maybe a quiz could be a good one to consider. And here's a different approach. As you can actually see, this is a RET funnel test. So they actually did a little bit of testing here. This is the pros funnel testing. So not the best naming for these pages, but it is what it is. It is good that they are testing, and I think this page will actually cover a lot of those pointers that I mentioned on the last one. Now, let's just click away from this. This is probably a timed one. I opened this page a little while ago. What it could be done here is just combining it with a scroll depth. So instead of popping it right away, you would have a little bit of depth to it, because then you know that if people open this into tabs, check it later, they don't start with this, because this immediately, like, again, makes people more skeptical. Okay, this is a sales page, and I don't even know what they're selling yet. Maybe I don't like this exact style. Just invites that no. And then you'd have to receive emails from them. And it requires a $145 order. So it's a tall ask at this point. So here, this is interesting. So some powerful visuals here. I like that. The thing that could be used here is this one. So the alternatives could cost hundreds of dollars, at least the quality alternatives. And the affordable options are poor quality, didn't work, or both. So that's something that could be used here instead of that headline, but that's okay. And this goes into a little bit of a better job of the explanation, in my view at least. So there's a little bit of a technical speak as well here, and then it goes to the frames. So that's the other landing page that they have. So that's enough for blue light glasses. Let's jump into something completely different again. So here we have actually the same kind of pop-up of getting 10% off. Let's just click away from it. This is a saving system. So they want to explain how this prevents razor bumps and etc. This might have been a good way to actually lead for a couple of the other funnels as well. To have this kind of checklist here to show how it differs. So it seems a bit more factual. I just do think that leading with this block of text is a pretty bad idea. I'm saying that especially because on mobile, this is also one that takes the entire screen and can be very much a showstopper in scrolling. And here you actually go and explain the difference. So that's a good thing. It's a continuation from this, and that's what you're looking to sell at this point, not necessarily how it's saving lives yet. So that's a very short funnel, actually. So just tries to get them briefly to the product page with just understanding that there is a difference between these two options. There's a little bit of a risk that this is missed, and this could be something that could be explained a little bit more in the funnel. Perhaps you could change this away and start providing proof around this. So these are statements that, again, like, can be a little bit difficult to believe. So how does it save money long term? Like, could you show me a calculation about it? That would be more powerful than just making a statement about it. Next, we have your dream hair in seconds. This is the last funnel before I show you the special combination of using an advertorial with the explanation funnel. So this is the dream hair in seconds, and they have some social proof and going for the Y part here. Again, a lot of claims, longer, thicker hair in seconds. That sounds a pretty difficult to achieve thing. So here is how it actually then works. Okay, that seems to explain it. Maybe women know about this a bit more than I do. And here's a good comparison. These kinds of tables are very good for the explanation funnel. I think they are often a little bit overlooked because they are a bit more tedious to design and they take a little bit more planning than just typing it out. But here you'll be able to show where the product shines and where it doesn't. And it's also good to have some things that combine with the others, so it has a bit more trust in this. Like, okay, I trust this table more because it both has natural ends and pre-cut layers, so it seems more honest simply because it's not completely different. And this makes more sense now, where you would have trim hair in seconds. They probably came from an ad, so they do have a little bit of an idea. However, like, this page could outline that a little bit more in the beginning, because otherwise it's going to be very much a thing that if they get lost in the tab, so if they look at this page again, like, that context is now missing. So that can easily happen as well. So it would need to be in a way shareable with people, and then the people would also be able to get that, the context around it. One thing that could be a little bit better explained is the science behind it. So why does it work the way it is working? So that just makes it a little bit more understandable and also more powerful. So there's that element that is missing. Some people will want it, some won't care, but then it will be easy to scroll over the section if they don't care. So those are the pre-sale funnels. Let's jump into the advertorial funnel, and I've alluded to this on a previous video as well, which I'll link in the description if you're curious about this kind of funnel. This is one where you basically have a native ad, just looks like any other article on the advertising, but it is an ad. And then you write this up in a review format, for example, or any kind of other format that looks like an article. So here they do go and do this explanation in an advertorial. So in this kind of case, it can look and feel a little bit more believable. So they go over that, and because it's on a news site, like, it doesn't necessarily like trigger those. Okay, it is an ad warnings in people's heads, and it can pass out some of those initial cards, and there you go. So usually the cons are very much pros. So it just has this, and you can make up for what you want, but like, it does work, and there's a lot of money made from advertorials. It is there for a reason, and it is because it has proven to work consistently. So some advertisers have in a way specialized into it, and that's the only funnel that they use. Typically on advertorial, you'd see a special offer. Okay, it's available now. Check here if it's still available. Those kinds of things, and then goes and like explains more and more and more. And typically you'd have links in between this explanation, so you can get to the sales page. So it just leaves it with the last one. So let's jump into this one, and this explains that you still have stock available, surprisingly. So here we are. We have a stock, and we can purchase from here. Notice that this page works a bit like an explanation funnel. It summarizes those pointers from the last page, because we don't necessarily know which one they clicked, or you don't necessarily want to produce like different page for every single link onto the page. But this summarizes the main things and then you have this outlined a little bit more in a professional manner. So it's just, now you have two voices going for this as opposed to only one. And here you have a pretty good comparison. These are the ones that I was talking about in terms of graphics. And again, makes it more believable, because you have authority that gets transferred from this design and sort of like effort into, okay, this is a legit company, it's a big thing. And then you have this comparison. So generally, this is a great funnel. You can model this if you'd like. And the sales page, or the pre-sale page in this kind of case, should work pretty well no matter if you use it with an advertorial or not. They probably found that it works better with the advertorial. But you are free to try, and most likely if you are able to explain your product's benefits this well, you will do well in e-commerce. There's also a second version about this. You can actually check it yourself if you want to. It's their product page, which is very similar to their funnel. It's not exactly the same. So there's a tiny bit of differences, but not that many. All right. Thank you very much for watching the video. I appreciate it. If you have watched this far, ask like a question, like what do you think was your favorite funnel, or do you have like any comments on any of the pointers I made? I'd be curious to hear your thoughts. If you didn't yet subscribe to the channel, now you have watched 25 minutes of this. There's a lot more on this channel, so definitely give it some serious thought. And I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.